Hello everyone, I hope you're having a wonderful day. In this video we'll learn about the major scales, how they are constructed in steps, and how to use accidentals depending on the scale used. First, let's start by learning some concepts. We will start with the idea of whole steps and half steps. If you remember, an octave has 12 notes in total before it repeats. Here in this case is the C octave, so basically the 12 notes were, and then it repeats again here, okay? So if you look closely, we number them from 1 to 12, and if we look at the relation between them, we can see that between each one of them we have what we call the half step, or what we call also a semitone. So we have between C and C sharp, it's a half step, then C sharp to D half step, half step, half step, half step. So all those 12 in sequence, they are one half step away from each other, or one semitone away from each other. So that was the half step. Now we move to the whole step. The whole step is, one whole step is equal to two half steps. So between C and D is what we call a whole step. So it's one half step, two half steps away, so two semitones away. So between C and D, between D and E is one whole step. Here between E and F sharp, because E and F is only one half step away, we need to jump to F sharp to get a whole step. Then from F sharp to G sharp, because again there's two semitones in between. Then from G sharp to A sharp, same story. And then here it jumps to C, because between B and C there is no black note. So it jumps from this 11 to 1. So we get this one. If we were doing only the half steps, we would have all the notes. We will now move to the concept of accidentals. An accidental is a symbol that we put next to a note which makes an alteration by adding or removing semitones or steps. Okay, I will explain a bit more about it. So first we have the natural, is when you go back to the normal state of a note after an alteration. Normally when you have a note without any accidental, you don't need to put anything, but if you change it and then you want to change back, you use the natural symbol before the note. It is the default state, but we usually only write it when we are going back from a different alteration. Okay, so this is like, if we say C, this is C natural. Okay, so no change on C. If we have ever deviated to something else and we want to go back to regular C, we use this symbol, which is the natural. The sharp is when we go up by one semitone or one half step. Okay, so if we're in C, we want to go up, that's one half step or one semitone up. That's what we call a sharp. Also in the up direction, we have what we call the double sharp, and this basically we go two semitones up or one whole step up. So starting from C, this is C sharp, and this is C double sharp. And you notice that it coincides with D, but that we can talk about later. One half step up is sharp, one whole step up is double sharp, or two semitones. In the other direction, a flat is when we go down one semitone. So suppose we are here in G. G flat is when we go down one half step or one semitone. This is G flat. Okay, and we write it with this symbol like a kind of lowercase b. And the double flat, so we write it as two B's, looks like two B's, B's, is when we go down two semitones or one whole step down. So from G again, this is G flat and this G double flat. Again, it coincides with F, but this is for later. You can see from a single note, this G natural, we can go down flat, double flat, or from G natural, G sharp, G double sharp. These are just some examples. This is a D natural, or just a D, D sharp, D double sharp, back from D this is D flat, D double flat, and when we want to go back, we have to put the natural symbol to indicate that the accidentals we were using no longer apply, and so we use the natural here. So again, back to D natural. You notice that sometimes the notes coincide. So from when we were in G, if a G double flat coincides with F, and there are many cases where you will see it happening. So for example here, A sharp is the same, so going up from A 1/2 step up is the same as going down from B, B flat, 1 step down. It's also the same as going 2 steps down from C. So at the end, I'm still playing the same note, it's the same sound. This is what we call enharmonic notes. Of course, they sound the same, I'm playing the same thing, but they serve different functions. So A sharp and B flat and C double sharp, they mean different things depending on the context where they are being played. And that's something super, super important in music theory, is to understand the context, what's going on, even though they sound the same. So if I'm playing them as on a piano and I'm just not thinking what's the theory behind, I'm just playing, that's fine. I just need to know where my fingers need to hit on the keys to play the sound that I want. But if I want to understand what's happening, what is being constructed, I need to understand, I need to choose the correct naming, basically, for the notes. So there are different names, but they have the same sound, but they serve different purposes. So with the good knowledge of steps and accidentals, we can start learning about the major scales and how to construct them. Let's start with the most easy to learn major scale, and that is C major. The C major starts with C. It uses the white piano keys, so this is what C major looks like. As you can hear, major scales have a happy sound to them, and that you will see it later on when you learn about other scales and chords and all that stuff. So major is happy. Each note on the scale has a position, which we call scale degree. We have 7 because we are dealing with 7 notes in the major scale. Here we are in C major scale. So the scale degree 1 is the C in this case. Scale degree 2 is the D, scale degree 3 is E, scale degree 4 is F, scale degree 5 is G, scale degree 6 is A, and scale degree 7 is B. And then C again is another scale degree 1, it just repeats itself. When we write about scale degrees, what we do is we write the number and on top of it a small hat, and this indicates the scale degree. So when we're talking, I'm in C major scale and I want the scale degree 6, then I should know automatically that that's an A. So if we look at the distances between those scale degrees of that scale, we notice that in some cases we have a whole step between the notes, and in some other cases we have half steps. So you look here, for example, between scale degree 1 and scale degree 2, it's a whole step because there's 2 semitones. But for example, between scale degree 3 and scale degree 4, there's a half step. This is extremely important to memorize because this is how the pattern of major scale looks like. Now we are in C major, but then you will see how it will replicate to other scales. So if we look very carefully at the pattern, what we see is whole, whole, half, then a whole, and then whole, whole, half. And so we can dissect this actually into 2 halves of whole, whole, half, and another whole, whole, half, and both of them are separated by a hole in the middle. Each of those sequences of 4 notes is what we call a tetrachord. Okay, remember this because it will be very, very useful later on. And you see they look the same. They are whole, whole, half, and this one is also whole, whole, half, and they just happen to be joined by a hole in between. So this is our C scale on the treble staff. Here we can see how it splits into 2 tetrachords. So again, whole, whole, half, and hole in between, and then again the same tetrachord, the pattern, whole, whole, half. As we are in C, we don't put any accidentals. This is what would be the C scale basically, starting from the C4. So here we have the two tetrachords, but as it is a repeating pattern, suppose we want to start from the second tetrachord and then add a whole and then build a new tetrachord. What would we get? In this case, we would be starting from G, and if we're starting from G as the first tetrachord, and then we add another tetrachord of whole, whole, half, and there's a hole in between, we are effectively following the same structure of a major scale, right? Because that's the pattern of a major scale, except that this time we are starting from G. So what we just did is that we built the G major scale, okay? I will start it here from the G4, whole, whole, half, and then whole in between, whole, whole, half. And that's the G major scale. But what did we notice here? We noticed that, of course, this tetrachord, we know it, is all the white keys, but then the interesting thing happens in the second tetrachord is we're starting from the white keys, but in order to have a whole and then half afterwards, instead of playing the natural F, the white key F, basically we had to raise it by a half step, by one semitone up, in order to have a whole distance here and then a half here. And so what we actually did is, now we're playing with F sharp. C was C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, okay? On a G major scale, we have G, A, B, C, D, E, F sharp, G. And this is how we write it on the notation. You see we're starting from the what used to be the second tetrachord of the C major scale. Now we're starting from it, so we're starting from G. We go up, then we have a hole in between, and then here we go up, and we had to raise the last note before the restart of the G again. In this case, the F, we had to raise it. Remember what it was? It was scale degree 7. So now suppose we take this tetrachord, and remember, it's always whole, whole, half, so it's a pattern. So let's suppose we start from this second tetrachord. In this case, it starts from a D, and so we add, we start with it, and then we add a new tetrachord after that. Where would we be? Here I went one octave down just to fit them, because I put here just 2 octave space, but it's the same. I mean, if we start from the D here or we start from the D here, the pattern is the same. Starting from the D, so you remember the second tetrachord of the G was the following, right? It was D, E, F sharp, G. Now we are starting with it. We have to continue. So we have whole, whole, half, and then we join with a whole, whole, and then we do again whole, whole, half. Whole, whole, half. What did we do here? Again, we raised the scale degree 7. So in effect, the D major scale is basically this. You see, it sounds happy. It's the D major scale. And in this case, we raised the scale degree 7, which is C. So to read them, basically, it's D, E, F sharp, G, A, B, C sharp, D. And then if we look how it looks like on the notation, there you go. We raised the C into a C sharp. I think you already start to get a feeling of a pattern here, of moving from one tetrachord to the other, and every time we're building a new major scale. But that will be for another lesson. What matters here is just to understand and to memorize that the major scale is the pattern of whole, whole, half, whole, and then whole, whole, half. And from there you can build any major scale that you wish. In the next lesson we will go much more in detail on those, and there's a lot to learn in that regard. And that's it for now. If you have any question, go ahead and write it in the comment section. I'll make sure to answer as soon as I can. If you enjoyed this lesson, subscribe for more. I'll be posting 2 lessons per week to help you in your learning journey. And I wish you a fantastic musical day.